Um, Graham, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Firstly, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Thanks very much. I'm okay. But pleasure to be on.
Thank you for coming on again. I'm looking forward to chatting. And I'm going to start where I usually do with all of my guests. I'm going to go right back to when you were younger and like with everyone when they first got into their profession. When was it you first realised that football was for you and what you wanted to get into?
Uh, Football family. My dad played. My dad was a manager through my childhood. Brother was obsessed. He was 3 years older than me, so I had no choice but to get a ball at my feet because he was challenging me every day. But yeah, we're just a massive football family, especially from growing up with my dad and going watching his games and then watching the Middlesbrough games as a kid and then playing in the garden and eventually joining Martin Football Club as a young kid and doing all right, being all right, all on my own. And like I said, and that's when you start thinking about could I possibly be a professional?
Because I imagine with being at Martin and being from around this area, you'll be a Middlesbrough fan, if I'm correct.
Yeah, yeah,
And
correct. Yeah.
and any particular, well, it doesn't even have to be Middlesbrough, but I imagine there'll be a few from there. But any in particular football heroes for you growing up?
I always like Middlesbrough wise. I love watching Gary Pallister and like Dave with Tony Mowbray. Even though I was a centre forward in them days, them two players always stood out for me. But we used to love watching. I used to go watch my dad's teams a lot as well. So it wasn't always the Middlesbrough games because we were going to watch support my dad's teams. But Gary Lineker, because he was a GL and I was a GL, I always remember saying I'll be the next GL when I was a young kid, and that's how you are when you're playing in the garden and you make up who you're going to be in that day. So, but no, I like to watching Gary Pallister and then seeing how he progressed into his career and Tony Mowbray, how he led Middlesbrough captain in them days. I remember being in the stands and admiring the type of people who were and the players. Yeah.
So I know you picked up. I know you mentioned there about how you were centre forward in them days, but for most of your career you were centre half, if I'm right. So how did that um
Uh,
change about?
I was always centre forward till probably 16, 17. Yeah, strangely enough, there was a few opportunities for me to go centre half, and I always like sort of like got picked up or got noticed when I did, but I always went back to centre forward. So when I was at York at the time, York Academy at the time. It was a good academy when we were young kids. So I think I was 15. But I only got picked up by York because I was at Leeds and we Martin played against York to have a look at the Martin players to see if York wanted to take any of them on for the under-16s. And the centre half got injured in the warm-up. So because I had a club, they asked me to go centre half. And within 20 minutes, York said, "I would like him." So then
Really?
the next year was I ummed and ahed with Leeds and York. Like Leeds hadn't made a decision, so I ended up going under 16s with York. But turned up and told them I was the centre forward. So I played centre forward for them. Played against Hartlepool. Beat Hartlepool 7-1 under 16s. Scored a couple, and the manager pulled my dad after the game. The Hartlepool manager saying about me, if he comes here, we'll give him a scholarship. So my decision was to accept the scholarship, and I know I'm guaranteed to get an opportunity in football, which I did. I took the Hartlepool. Same thing happened to Hartlepool. The centre half got injured in the warm up when I was 16 in the youth team. Played centre half for 2 games, and the manager turned around and went, "I think we've got a centre half in our hands." And started my 17, when I just turned 17, started that second year scholarship. Started as a centre half, and within a month, I was in the first team. But
Also, that's how the Hartlepool move came about. Then playing
yeah,
against them with York, and then they picked
yeah,
you up when you won
yeah,
against them.
yeah. So that was my transition into centre half. So I literally, within a month of playing, I end up going straight into the first team at 17-year-old playing centre half. So yeah, it was strange, but your options sometimes you'll have coach lads who you'll recommend them going into different positions, and they'll say no, I'm this, and I took which option I could to try and be professional, and thankfully it worked.
Because I guess there is that element if you don't. if you like sort of stick to what you want and say, well, I'm not playing because I want to be a centre forward. If that doesn't come off, then you might not have had the chance at being a professional. So sort of
Uh,
like snapping at that
totally
chance,
agree.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is your pathways. I know at Leeds, my mum only tells me this now, but she said Leeds pulled my dad and said, "Oh, I think Graeme will be a centre half when he's older." And my dad said, "No, he's a centre forward." So, so you never know what could have happened there. But yeah, so everyone seemed to spot it. It was just when I get given or got asked for the opportunity, I just said, "Yeah, no problem." And like I said, I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity as a centre forward. I might have made it a little bit, or you never know. But I did end up going back to centre forward quite a few times for Hartlepool as well.
because Hartlepool's, of course, where you started your professional career, and I'm aware you'll have very fond memories of your time at achieving promotion to the second division, if I'm right.
Yeah, into League One at the time. So yeah, that was the season I ended up. I think I've been there 8 years. When I first got into the first team at Hartlepool, it was a relegation battle most years. We were battling away and trying to survive, and then as things progressed, new owners came in. Chris Turner came in as manager, and then we started being at the top end of the table, which was strange because sometimes we'd be in the top two in Christmas time, and I'd be still making sure we're safe. Just from how I'd been the first few years of being playing. But then, yeah, thankfully we hit the playoffs 3 years in a row, and then the fourth time we went automatic. And thankfully, yeah, it was amazing. Like I said, to take them up after being at the club for 8 years, it was fantastic.
So? Of course, that's a big memory that sticks out. Any others from your time at Hartlepool, and any in particular players that stand out the most?
I've played with some fantastic players at Hartlepool. My time, obviously, from coming through, getting my debut, being in the team. Ian McGuckin was the captain at the time, a Middlesbrough lad. He was only young himself, but fantastic centre half. He showed me how to be a man on the pitch and made sure I was a man on the pitch and never show pain on the pitch. So he taught me something what I took all the way from my career. There was another centre half when I just came through, but he was only there for a year, so crossover. But it was just when I was 17. Peter Billing, I think he played for Coventry and Sheffield Wednesday, and them. And he was like an arm around my shoulder when I came over, trained with the first team. He sort of like kept telling me, "You'll have a good career. You'll have a good career," and helping us out with little things. So them type of players. Then as we moved on, like as we started being a team, we were top end of the table. You had people like Mark Tinkler, Rich Humphreys, Effian Williams, Adam Boyd. There were so many. Chris Westwood, who played centre half, with so many top players. I could name more, but we were very good players. But what we did have, and especially them promotion or like them playoff years, was a team spirit, like a real team spirit. Where if we went out on a night out, everyone went out. If we went on an end of season trip, everyone went on the end of season trip. It was really tight, and them things are massive in football, and they're the things what do get you success by having that bond within the change room. But player wise, yeah, we played with some fantastic players.
I absolutely agree. I think team bonding now in football and having a team spirit is probably the most important thing. I mean, you can have as many successful players as you want, but I mean, a prime example now is like last few years. You look at Manchester United. There's like players like Ronaldo, Fernandes, who are world beaters, but because they don't get on between them, it sort of like creates a bit of a divide in the team. So I think it is very important, team spirit.
No, it's massive. It is massive. I look back through my career and the successful teams I had, and we had 4 promotions. I had 4 promotions, lucky enough, within my career, and every single one of them, there was the same thing, that we had a good changing room and a good group of lads and characters within them lads, but people who organise things for the team to do and go together and be together, and it's massive, and that's one thing I try to bring as a coach or as a manager going into my next step of what I want to do.
Certainly, I think it's one of probably the most important element in a football team. And you scored a fair few goals for Hartlepool as well, didn't you, Graeme? 20, I think it was, wasn't it?
I'm not. Yeah, it possibly was. It could have been 20. Yeah, I did. Like I said, I did get moved up front a few times, so I scored a couple. No, I managed to get my head on quite a few corners or free kicks and things. So I probably try to average, if I could get myself 5 or 6 goals a season, then I was happy.
So I think like was it as a defender yourself, like but having the previous experience of being playing up front, did you have like more of a better jump and everything to get your head on chances from
One thing I
corners?
was always good at was timing and my heading. My heading was
Yeah,
a big game. I was very rarely I'd lose many headers within a game. If I did lose the first one, I'd made sure I didn't lose anymore. So yeah, it was timing, but the transition probably is. You're probably right. From a centre forward days, I managed to be able to. Not many people can head the ball in both boxes, especially attacking wise, and I managed to get my timing right on that as well. So I managed to score a few goals and some important ones as well.
and then after Hartlepool, you moved to Sheffield Wednesday under Chris Turner. How did it feel to get that move to Sheffield Wednesday? Because of course they're a club that have a big history, big stadium, Hillsborough, and Sheffield Wednesday are probably one of the most well-known clubs in football for just like the all-round history.
Yeah, it was a tough one. And obviously, I've been at Hartlepool so many years, and we just got promoted. I'd had meetings and chats towards the end of the season. Obviously, with Chris had just left Hartlepool and gone in to Sheffield Wednesday, so I knew it was on the cards. They're in the Championship at the time, and that was where I wanted to really, and that's why I was looking to try and get myself to with that move. Unfortunately, as I agreed things, terms and things, the last game of the season, Sheffield Wednesday got relegated, so I ended up Hartlepool going up and relegated. So it was a tough one because we end up being in the same league, and I didn't want to do that, but I'd already sort of like agreed. So, but Sheffield Wednesday as a club was just from going there the first time I turned up at the stadium, and like you said, the history about the stadium, the fan base, and then the training ground. It was another world from my time at Hartlepool, and I would come through and jogging over to Greyfields from training as a youth team and different things, and then turning up at this training ground and then this big stadium, and in League One we were having 30,000 fans most weeks, especially when we were doing well, and it was a massive club, and it still is a massive club, and it's a club you'd love it to be in the Premier League because of what that fan base, what they've got there, and the fans from all the years have been at the top flight. They've stuck by the team, and it is a club, when you look back, they deserve some good times.
Because I think you look at them now in League One, that's not where they should be as a club, is it? They should be, like you say, going for the Premier League.
For the fan base they have in the club, the whole city's it's a big footballing city. The Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday, and at the time, it's both clubs are well supported clubs, and it's like there's loads of banter between the fans. It's even if you live near, your family members are different supporters. So there's a lot of good friends I've got there where they have so much banter. But the club itself, for the fan base they've got, you'd like to see them especially in the Championship or, like I said, the Premier League.
Was it good to play in front of them fans at Hillsborough when you were at Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, it was immense. It was the song "Hi Ho Sheffield Wednesday" before the game. I'd never experienced like the atmosphere we had at Hartlepool towards the end of the when we were getting promoted was fantastic, and we need of getting full houses, but that's 5,000. All of a sudden, I've jumped to 30,000 fans all singing "High Horse Sheffield Wednesday," and you had no hairs on the back of your neck were standing up, and you just sang it. Just I look at the players now, and they have these gels and things to get them going. I'm just listen to that. It's like you were just ready to go. You were ready to play, and like I said, I did. I absolutely loved it. It's one of as I look back in my career, it was one of the highlights to be playing at that stadium in front of that many fans.
Of course, at Sheffield Wednesday, you played with players like Chris Brunt, Robbie Mustoe, but also people who've gone on to succeed as managers in the Championship as well. Paul Heckingbottom, who's now at Sheffield United. Actually, funnily enough, talking about Sheffield Wednesday, now manager of Sheffield United. Mark Robbins, who's at Coventry, and Dean Smith, who's at Norwich, who I'm aware you took the armband from as well when he got an injury. What were they like to play with as players?
All you could, as they are, you can see what they are now. Like Dean Smith, when I first went to Sheffield Wednesday, he led the changing room already. He was that type of character. He was a PFA rep. You could tell where he was going to go. You knew he was going to go into management or some level of in football and good people, really good man. Dean Smith, really good man. Mark Robbins, I still speak to him. I've bumped into him a few times when I played against him, different his teams. Good pros who's had fantastic careers, and you only have them careers or what they have because they're good people, and you can see what they do now. Paul Eckenbottom I played with, not just at, I think I had a stint at Hartlepool, stint at Bradford and Sheffield Wednesday with him, and he was a good character, really good character. Yeah, we had a good story on Paul. When we got promoted with Sheffield Wednesday against Hartlepool, we're on the team bus. He still had his kit on. We were stuck in traffic, so he started running down the motorway with a trophy, jumping in all the cars for some Sheffield fans until he jumped in a Hartlepool car. So that didn't But no, he's. I'm delighted. I still speak to Paul now. When I first got the Hartlepool job, I had a little good chat with him and some good advice. And I spoke to him recently about going down and just observing him training and how they do the day-to-day work. So he's good people, really good people. Robbie Mustoe was coming to the end of his career, but I remember watching him at Middlesbrough. Fantastic. Again, he just obsessed with doing the right things all the time. So he'd come in, he was the oldest lad probably in the team at the time, but he'd be doing laps at the training field before training just to make sure he's ready to go. And that's why they've played at the top level. So yeah, no, some of the, like I said, you forget when you name these people who have gone on to doing fantastic in football, but it's for me, it's good connections within the game as well.
Because of course they've all had great careers, and in particular Robbie Mustoe, because a few months back I had John Hendry come on here and he spoke about how good of a player he was to play with at Middlesbrough in his career.
Yeah. Robbie was, like I said, it was only, I think it was only the last year, but I watched Robbie from Middlesbrough, and you knew he was one of them players all over players would really appreciate what he does for the team, how he worked for the team, and he's breaking play up and just moving the ball quick and simple, but so effective in the games. And like I said, that season for Sheffield, he done fantastic. It wasn't a great season for us out in my first year there, but he was just like I said, he led by example and how he wanted to do things. But he's had a fantastic career now, I think, in a pundit over in America as well.
Yeah, he's in America now, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
But looking at your career as a whole, Graeme, of course, there were spells at Doncaster, Bradford, Notts County, and Darlington too. But if you look at, in particular, fondest memories of your career, what is there any that stick out the most at all of your clubs? Because I know at Doncaster you led them to a 3-2 win in the final of the Football League trophy at the Principality Stadium, which was then the Millennium.
Yeah. Scored the winner as well, don't forget that.
Yeah, the winning goal.
Yeah. So no, like things like that stick out straight away for highlights of your career. Like you said earlier, I had 4 promotions within my career. So Hartlepool, being able to take Hartlepool up, massive achievement. Still something I look back and being very proud of. And then going to Sheffield, unfortunately, I missed the playoff final through injury, but again, getting promotion with Sheffield, which was massive. But just playing for that club was a big highlight. And then Doncaster was another thing. We wanted to get promotion. I ended up in the end managing it. Unfortunately, story of my career, injury, so I missed a good chunk of the season where we got promotion. But again, it was a fantastic occasion. But the highlight of that was obviously being able to score the winning goal, first ever trophy the Doncaster won. So it was a massive, massive thing for me, and to be able to, like I said, to be able to be the captain and score the winner. Also, I had some good times at Donny because we went from the old stage in Bellevue to the Keepmoat Stadium. So the transition of that and being the captain who transitioned the team across was another massive. Okay, for me, it was like I'm very proud to be able to say I've done that. And then I had a tough time this season. We got promoted at Doncaster through injuries. It was a nightmare season for me, from herniating a disc in my neck to then microfracture in my knee. So I missed a big chunk. I ended up going on loan just to get some fitness in. Got back on the bench for the playoffs and then missed the playoff final. So I ended up leaving and going to Bradford. From 9 months out, played every game at Bradford. Didn't succeed in the sense of what we wanted to achieve. We were top of the league at Christmas, and then it filtered off. And it was one of them where I didn't enjoy football that year. I always remember, I look back, I was probably 29, 30, probably 30-year-old. And it got a point the season before, injuries, knew I wasn't firing how I wanted to be playing through, even though I was playing week in, week out, and we weren't getting the success on the pitch. Nothing worse for a player, I don't think, or anyone involved, when you get towards the end of the season and there's nothing to play for. A really frustrating thing. And we probably, from where we were to quickly not having anything to play for, was frustrating. And the opportunity to go to Notts County came up, and Bradford at the time they were keen on a few of us who were earning a little bit more money than others to, if they could get a club, they could go, sort of thing. And the Notts County, under all what they thought was the millionaires or the billionaires who were coming in, and it was going to be the richest club in the world, the oldest club in the world. And so Sven-Goran Eriksson had come in and different things. So I got the opportunity to go there. So I ended up signing there, and it was an eventful season. It was eventful. On the pitch, again, team spirit. But the amount of meetings and the amount of things where we thought we were fantastic, and then it all went pear-shaped, and new owners had to come in and kept the club out of administration, thankfully, which helped the team, and we ended up going and winning the league. But we didn't probably, all that, what went off behind the scenes brought the team spirit and the change room closer together, and that ended up getting us over the line, and we ended up going on and winning the league. And it was, like I said, so another fantastic. It was the first time I'd won the league. I'd had promotions, playoffs, and second place, but that was the first time winning the league as well. So another highlight. And then I was loving football again. That season, you enjoy it. When you have success, you enjoy it. But no, it was so I've had some good highlights, really have. And like I said, it was at the time, I had another season in League One when we got promotion there. And then that's when I started sort of like looking into the other side. Martin Allen sort of put me on the dugout, on the bench with him. I was suspended. I got sent off before he came in, and he had me on the dugout. We'd done a couple of games where he asked a few questions, and then all of a sudden I played a game. We won against Swindon, so I thought I'd be back playing again. Then he said, "No, you're back on the bench with me and his assistants," and I ended up on the bench and advising. And I just, because I was watching a game, I was speaking my mind. The assistant would come up and say, "Oh, what about making this change?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I wouldn't do that. I'd be doing this, blah, blah, blah." And then I didn't realise he was going back to the manager and feeding that information back. And so I ended up getting offered a youth team and first team coach at the end of that season. I was 33, I think. And I rang a few people, Michael Barron at the Hartlepool youth team at the time, and she said, "What? I've been offered this." He said, "Have you been offered playing contracts anywhere?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Play as long as you can." So I was like, "All right." So at the time,
manager.
Yeah, just play as long as you can, but you've got all the rest of your life to try and be a coach. So I ended up choosing coming back to Darlington, come back home. Me and my wife come back home. At the time, we were trying to have kids, so we just thought, well, let's try and come back home and see what happens. And I ended up getting injured Christmas time, and that was me in my career. But I ended up helping Darlington, even though we went in administration, I ended up helping Darlington a little bit on the touchline and helping Craig Little, assisting him to try and just to get the club to the end of the season. So yeah,
of course, around this area, Darlington's a team that's got quite a big history. Because that time, I imagine, will they have still been playing at the big stadium?
Yeah, we were still at the big stadium. still a big stadium. It was like we were open for it. We'd gone in National League when I'd signed with, again, looking at trying to get promotion, and we weren't firing towards Christmas time, and the chairman decided to pull out. And unfortunately, I played a couple of games New Year's Day. I got a couple of stud marks on my knee, and when I looked, it was the same knee what I'd done at Doncaster, the microfracture, and this time it was a little bit unrepairable. And said if I continue playing, I'd need a knee replacement within 5 years. So I thought, well, I'll have to pull back on that one and then end up, like I said, going into the other side of things. But at the time, I just started coaching at Middlesbrough as well, under 13s. So I was sort of edging into where I wanted to go.
Was it always a thought for you going into management, or did it sort of like come from a few games on the sidelines, sort of being thrown in, but it might have been something you'd have gone into anyway?
I'd always looked at it, but never in a serious way. But that season, I got injured at Doncaster for a year. When I went to Bradford, I wasn't enjoying it, and that's when I started. Like, I think I was 30-year-old, and because I wasn't enjoying it, I was like, I could go into coaching or management. I'd rather do that. That's where I am at my end. So I started taking notes of what managers did and sessions and different things, and got my badges. Started doing my badges, and then. We had, fortunately, Notts County, had like people like Hans Backer came in, who was a fantastic coach who'd worked with he's worked all around the world. So it was like I said, some of the sessions he did and how we dealt with things, I'm very interested in. I look back through my career, started taking notes of other managers. Martin Allen came in, and I thought he was fantastic because he had a persona about him, Mad Dog. Everyone said about Mad Dog, and he'd done some crazy stuff. Really did do some crazy stuff, but there was method in his madness all the time, and I sort of like seen through that, and I could see what he was trying to do. One, team spirit and trying to bring everyone together, not just the players, the staff, everyone. But he managed the club. He didn't just manage the team. He came in. We walked in one morning and there was 100 bacon sandwiches on the table in the changing room. But then there was all these staff members just sat in the change room. But staff, the cleaning ladies, laundry ladies, office staff, accountants, every single member of that football club was in that room. And he just said, and he got the players to sit along around him and introduce yourself. This is our family. Oh. And so like we all sat there, had breakfast, talking. Now they're people have been at the club a year and a half, and half the people you haven't met. Yeah. But at the time, we were in a bit of a relegation fight, and he wanted everyone to be pulling in the same direction, and it was massive. And they had little notes I would put down: don't just manage the team or players, try and manage the club, the people, create an atmosphere in the club, in the positive energy. So you've got that positivity; it's infectious, and if you can create that within the club, then the team will start doing well on the pitch.
So that's a good thing, because I guess like you said, the people like the chefs as well and everybody else who works around the club to
I know the chefs. I always know the chefs.
but like
know too much.
Special bacon sandwiches.
Yeah.
But like it's like these people who people sometimes ignore around a football club, and like if you're bringing all them together, because everybody's at the same football club at the end of the day, so.
No, it's something about bringing everyone and creating an environment where people enjoy going to work. But if players are coming past and calling someone cleaner, Janet, hi Janet, I love him, and that just it creates a smile on people's faces, and then they feel good. And like Middlesbrough, we had Avril, the clean lady. Every single person in that club knew who Avril was, but that because of her character. And she was always out there. Unfortunately, she retired. She retired about 5 times in the end, I think. But 5 years ago. But she was there, the type of people in your club who you need, but like for the players to recognise them as well, it's massive.
So as you've gone along in your managerial career, Graeme, is it like sort of something that you've sort of wanted to inherit, that environment and that good team spirit around the club?
It's hard to. I've always tried to do it within the teams because I've coached. I coached in Middlesbrough the 23s, assisted, and then led it, and I always wanted to try and create a positive atmosphere for the lads. So when the lads are coming in, you want them to be thriving. You want them to be like going on the pitch with no fear and enjoying the football. And it's hard with young lads and the egos and all that. So it's trying to just get everyone on the same wavelength and try and be positive. And I've always said within my getting the opportunity, that's what I wanted to try and create. If once I got a manager's job, I'd like to think if you spoke to the people of Hartlepool, the staff around the buildings and the office staff and the ground staff, that they'll probably say I was that type of man who tried to manage who brought them together. I made sure I got myself an office at the stadium, not just at the training ground. So on the afternoons I'd go across just so I could mix with the people within the building as well and get good relationships with the people who worked in the shop, the people who worked in the accountants. And I used to just pop myself in the office and I would sit down, have a chat, and try and get someone to make me a cup of tea after time. But yeah, just trying to create an atmosphere, and that's why we had some good success within that, and everyone was pulling in the same direction.
How was the time at Middlesbrough? Because of course you were there with the under-23s. I imagine you'll have seen some of the players come through, potentially broken into the first team now. How was your time there?
Look, I remember going when I first went there. We played. How I got in, we played. Darlington played Middlesbrough pre-season, so I ended up Mark Proctor, more people that we talked about years back, and Tony Mowbray was the manager at the time. Stephen Pears I played with at Hartlepool. So I just had a quick chat with them, said any jobs. I've just done my B licence, any jobs coming in the academy. So they put me on to Dave Parnaby, and Dave gave me a ring, and I ended up coming in and ended up getting the under-12s job at the time and coaching with another Andy Lowe's, now the academy manager at Hartlepool. So I ended up coaching with him, and that's how I transitioned. Then I went into scouting for a year while I was doing that coaching. So I was doing the first team scouting, French League 2 it was, and then the under-21s job came up. So I ended up going in there and loved it. That's what I was getting to. When I first drove to that training ground on a night, I just looked at it and went, wow, what a place to come and work. This, like, to come here every day would be unbelievable. And then he ended up getting the opportunity to do that. And then, like I said, I've done 11 years. I think 10, 11 years there. And loved it. I'm a Middlesbrough fan. I'm a Middlesbrough lad. And being given the opportunity to coach local lads, a lot of local lads, but lads from far and afield as well, and try and develop and give them a bit of guidance to try and get in the first team, or if not in the first team, have a career in the game. And I'd like to think I've had a good impact on a lot of players who have come through. And when we look back at all the players who have come through the system, and it's not just me, but the staff within there, are very proud. There must be 40 or 50 professionals out there who's from my time of coaching has come through and gone on to have careers in the game. And some are in the Premier League, some in the Scottish Premier League, and people in League 2, the conference, and all the way through every single league. And we want them in Middlesbrough. We do want them again the first team, but if not, we want to make sure they try and get a career. And there's so many of them out there, which is massive. And even me I played against quite a few of the lads when I was at Hartlepool last year, and different ones point out. But even Hayden Hackney, I'd heard him for
Hackney was just breaking through now.
Yeah, I had him there for 2 or 3 years. And he was absolutely fantastic for me. He broke in, I think he was coming to 23 from 16, 17, and he's been itching. He had a loan move last year at Scunthorpe. Probably everyone will look at it on paper and think wasn't a successful loan, but it was for Hayden because he went and played men's football. He played a lot of games. Yeah, Scunthorpe got relegated in the end, but that's not because Hayden didn't do well, but it's just unfortunate the team weren't good enough to stay in the league. But his development for that was massive. Before I got the Hartlepool job, I went to watch him against Barrow, and he played in the game. It was one of the awful games sort of thing to watch in the sense for Hayden.
Yeah.
He's used to playing. His team were just going long, and it was about second balls and picking up, and you could see he was bringing that side of his game to him. And I spoke to him after, and I said, like, you've probably done 3 good things in the game in the sense of on the ball, but you had a fantastic game. And he was like, oh yeah, but I didn't get no. I said, Ian, this is you have to now do that side of the game, and might show quality once or twice in the game because that's what you're trying to do. But as you're progressing up the leagues, that's when you're going to show more and more because you're surrounded by better players around you, and he's doing that now, and he's probably got one of the best mentors on that pitch alongside him in Johnny Howson because he's fantastic professional, Johnny, and he's been a fantastic servant for Middlesbrough. And for Hayden to go in alongside him, it's massive for him. But Hayden looks $1 million, and
he's fantastic.
Fantastic he is.
And I bet that makes you feel good as well to see that he's succeeded and got into that first team. And now, like you say, he's got a mentor in Johnny Howson and probably one of the best holding midfielders of all time in the Premier League, Michael Carrick, managing him. So he's got good people to learn from as he's in the first team now.
No, he's one of Hayden's things we used to always say was his intensity. If he plays at a certain intensity, he could play at any level. If he drops it, he won't play at any level. And that's one thing. So that low move last season would have made him realise he has to play at a certain intensity, and he's bringing that into his game now. But like I said, surrounded by Johnny House and then Michael Carrick coming in, the new manager now, all his experience and wealth of experience in that position, it can only kick Hayden on even more.
Of course, so Graeme, at the end of last year, you left that role at the Middlesbrough under-23s to take up the Hartlepool job. How did it feel to get that when you taken up the role? Because it's, of course, a club that you had a great affection with throughout your career.
It was, look, it's something I've wanted for a long time, and you have to be patient. I loved my role at Middlesbrough and enjoyed it, and sometimes I could have sat back and just went, brilliant. But I wanted the opportunity to go into management and go into first team football in some capacity, and I got the opportunity. And like I said, I would never change anything, even though I'm sitting here now and not doing anything at this moment in time. I would not have changed it. I felt as though everything I wanted to achieve when I went in, what we put down on paper to try and get to, when I went into the club, we achieved that, and then we had some fantastic cup runs. So I was proud of it. I was just more disappointed that I didn't get the opportunity to what I had in place, to the players I had to bring in for the next season to give myself a real fighting chance to have a successful year this year. I didn't get that opportunity, and it's frustrating for me, but also the position Hartlepool are in at the moment. It's frustrating to see.
Because it must be because, in my opinion, it was you hadn't been there long. It was an unfair sacking. You've been there 5 or 6 months, and it really, in that time when a manager's in the first, it's a building process. And of course, there was a great FA Cup run, as you mentioned, against Crystal Palace. They're like little positives that you sort of take and think, well, look at what could be achieved in the long run.
Yeah, look, we going in, I looked at I think there were 19 games they'd played, and they'd won 7 and lost 10 and drew 2, but they'd lost the previous 5 for me coming in. So my plan was straight away, I have to tighten things up. It's not going to be nice, but we've got to stay in games and build confidence. And if you look at that, I was turning losses into draws and then hopefully start bringing more wins. And look at the record. That happened. We started staying in games. We scraped a couple of wins, which were tight games, and then a couple of draws, and we built, and then a few signings in the January window, and we had a fantastic February where I think we won 6 or 7 games, or where it was, and we took it into March. We beat Harrogate. Unfortunately, we had Rotherham in the semi-final of the Papa John's Cup, which was another fantastic cup run. Took Rotherham who were League One to penalties, and unfortunately we lost on penalties, and sort of like that was a little dagger in the heart for everyone involved, because the excitement of getting to Wembley was massive for the club. And the next game was flat at home, because obviously everyone was flat. I think the fans were flat. We were all a bit flat, and then we got a good win at Newport away, and then it was just a bit up and down. Then performances weren't there. We knew we couldn't get in the playoffs. We knew we couldn't. But that Newport, we hit the 51 points. And when I went in there, I don't like putting points on tally, but they had a target of 50 points. Get to 50 points was safe. That's what everyone wanted.
Yeah.
Deep down in my head, I knew I wanted to get 50 points as quick as I could so we could chat. But then I wanted to try and kick on from that. And it was it was tough because you could see people had sort of like sat back and we've achieved what we wanted to achieve here. We've done it quite early where we want to kick on, and mentally people got a little bit lethargic, but I think it was more look, as football goes, there was a lot of injuries and different things, but results. We still went away to top of the league at Forest Green and got a 1-1 draw, which was a fantastic result. It was just and just the last month, April, was hard because if we ever lost a game, I always try to make sure we didn't lose the next game. And I look back and that's what we did. But unfortunately, I got COVID and missed a couple of weeks, and so we ended up losing. I think was Salford we might have lost to, and then we had Rochdale away, which I missed, and Swindon at home, which I missed, and we ended up losing them 2 games, which was frustrating because I watched them on the computer and I was 3 minutes behind. So
yeah.
Whatever I was saying to the staff was they had no idea what I was trying to talk about because it was that much delayed. It was frustrating. But like I said, I came back, and Drew at Scunthorpe, and then I'd done loads of planning and prepping for the pre-season. I had players I was meeting on the Friday morning, good players for the experienced lads for the league, and unfortunately I thought I was going for a recruitment meeting and got told it's time for change. So it was tough. It was hard. It's still hard to take now. But like I said, all I'm doing now is trying to plan and prep myself. I feel as though I've got a lot to offer, and what I've set out to achieve. That we achieved it, and I've learned from the experience. And like I say, I'm just waiting for the next opportunity now.
I was going to say, is the plans to bounce back and get straight into management when the right opportunity arises?
Yeah, look, I'd love the opportunity to get back in. Yeah, it's bounce back's probably gone now because it's been it's been bad. But no, look, you've got to use this time, and I reflected a lot and tried to understand reasoning why. But still trying to at times. But no, you've got to make sure you learn from every experience you have, and that's what I've tried to do. And now it's about me planning and prepping. So if an opportunity comes up that I'm ready to go, and I'll take that opportunity.
Fantastic, and hopefully we'll see you back in the dugout very soon. And that brings me to a close today, Graeme. So thank you so much for coming on to chat. It's been great.
Yeah, appreciate it.